CZ was supposed to be allowed to return to the UAE with his wife and kids and then come back to the United States on February 23rd, 2024 for his court date. But the Department of Justice has filed a motion requesting Judge Jones require him to stay in the US until sentencing. After pleading guilty, CZ was released on a $175 million personal recognizance bond. He put $15 million into a trust account and had 3 guarantors put up $5 million in collateral to secure the bond. So the size of this bond just shows how serious of a flight risk the Department of Justice views CZ, even though he's always been a person of his word, and just the fact that he came to the US originally to plead guilty for this kind of shows his intentions here are to take care of it and take responsibility. But imagine the embarrassment if he did go back to the UAE and never show up for trial, and they never got to keep their money, and Binance continued operating under the UAE crypto license. There is no extradition between the UAE and the US. So I do understand the concern. Judge Richard Jones stayed the ruling, and we'll find out at some point what they decide. So what happened here? In only 6 years, from 2017 to present, CZ and the team at Binance grew from nothing to being the largest centralized trading venue for crypto in the world, and CZ became one of the richest men on earth. This threatened the institutions who run the global financial and political system, and for this transgression, he had to pay the largest fine in financial history. Binance was not so big and bad that it committed more crimes than any bank in American history, some of which have existed for centuries. This is an absurd outcome, and it highlights the arbitrary nature of punishment in the United States. He agreed to pay $4.3 billion from Binance and $150 million personally, and he faces up to 18 months in jail, which could be extended to 10 years under a condition that if it's anything longer than 18 months, he's going to appeal. CZ had to give the Department of Justice corporate oversight for the next 3 years into Binance, and the DOJ is going to implement strict monitoring and reporting requirements. And the Department of Treasury has been given a 5-year monitoring. They're going to make sure that Binance actually exits the US, and they'll be given complete unfeathered access to the systems and accounts in Binance. The specific crimes that CZ pled guilty to himself were failing to maintain an effective AML program in violation of the Bank Secrecy Act, and he resigned from being CEO. Notably absent from the docket is the SEC. They had filed 13 allegations against Binance earlier this year, accusing it of fraud, commingling customer funds, and other things, unregistered security sales. But the charging agencies here are FinCEN, OFAC, and the CFTC. And the CFTC is considered a little bit more pro-crypto than the SEC. So there's no fraud charges. CZ is not alleged to have stolen user funds or anything like that. He just failed to maintain an AML program and collect the KYC information on the global Binance. So CZ will remain a majority shareholder, and he says he'll be available for consulting consistent with the framework set out by the US agencies in the resolution. And he's going to focus his time now on passive investing and DeFi, which this is actually quite bullish for BNB because last year he stated his portfolio was 99% BNB. Binance will continue to operate under the new CEO, Richard Tang, and CZ can even come back in 3 years. Amidst the charges, Binance users pulled $1 billion off the exchange in the 24 hours after the news, and the trading volume has dropped from around $15 billion a day to $5 billion a day. This enforcement action can actually be viewed as fairly bullish for crypto and the ETF approval because BlackRock and other asset managers, they're waiting on this ETF approval, and they're the ones buying all the debt from the US Treasury. Without their support, the Treasury would be in serious financial trouble and interest rates would actually be much higher, and this gives them considerable leverage over the US regulators. SEC has always specified in its ETF rejections concerns about offshore exchanges and Tether in its past ETF rejections. So taking care of Binance gets us a lot closer to the ETF approval, but there might still be one more major piece to come, and that's something happening with Tether, getting Tether out of the way. BlackRock is a major competitor of Tether because BlackRock manages the reserves for Circle's USDC, and the USDC market cap has been on a sharp decline the last year and a half, and Tether's has been increasing. On the same day as the Binance settlement announcement, Tether posted a blog stating that it's onboarded the US Secret Service into its platform and is planning to do the same for the FBI in an effort to support victims of crimes under investigation by the DOJ. They're obviously under a lot of pressure from US regulators here to take that kind of action and post a blog like that. And the fact that the BUSD, Binance's stablecoin, it used to have a $23 billion market cap, and it's been shut down in an orderly fashion, and it didn't really disrupt the market. Its market cap now is $1.7 billion, and it's going to be turned off by 2024. But the regulators are probably looking at that saying, oh, maybe they can do the same thing with Tether, and that might be the final piece needed to get the ETF approval across the finish line. The whole thing's kind of a win-win-win. The situation works out for all parties involved. The Treasury and the Department of Justice, they can really pat themselves on the back for stopping terrorism, and they can use this terrorism angle to add further restrictions to the crypto industry going forward, against any decentralization. And the SEC, they can use this as the, catapult to approve the ETF, since their biggest worry has been these offshore exchanges manipulating the price of Bitcoin. And CZ, despite the magnitude of the fine, he still is getting off kind of with a slap on the wrist. He's not going to rot away in jail for the rest of his life. It's just money that he has to pay, and he still has all his shares intact in Binance as the majority shareholder, and Binance will no doubt do well in the upcoming bull market, so he'll be okay. It's just the hypocrisy and the unfairness of the fine that he's given, and the fact that he's going to have to possibly spend up to 18 months in jail. You look at it compared to the traditional financial system. The politicians are out there running their 2024 election campaigns with money stolen directly from FTX users. The Pentagon, they failed another audit for $3.8 trillion of missing military equipment. That's 5.3 times the whole Bitcoin market cap. So if funding terrorism was the real concern, I think some additional investigation into that failed audit might be warranted. If you look at the former CEO of Goldman Sachs, he got to retire with all of his stocks intact after helping the former Malaysian Prime Minister Razak steal $10 billion. He wasn't fined criminally. The company was fined $2.9 billion over the scandal in 2020 compared to 4.3 to Binance. And then HSBC's CEO, he wasn't sent to jail for allowing his employees to physically alter cash deposit points so Mexican cartels could launder money. HSBC was fined $1.9 billion. So it just shows how threatened they are by crypto. The treatment of CZ and Binance shows the resistance against decentralization and the blockchain revolution, which directly challenges state powers.